if you're trying to run a conversion campaign using Facebook ads or any other ad platform, one of the first obstacles you're going to come across is which landing page service should you use, or which smart link landing page service should you use. And if you've never seen these before, this is what we use in a conversion campaign to track conversions on our website. We don't send people directly to Spotify, directly to Apple. We send them to a page like this that we own and control so that we can actually track when people are taking actions on this page and which platforms are they going to, what countries are they from, etc. And there's a bunch of different options out there. There's a ton of options. And in this video, I'm going to go over 3 particular options that I've used extensively, which one each type of artist should use depending on how much experience you have with ads or how much money you have, what are the pros and cons of each platform. So the platforms going to be covering, this one is FeatureFM, the other one we're going to be covering is Hypeddit, and then also ToneDen. And there's a few factors that come into play here. 1 is the price, 2, how easy is it to get up and running, and 3 are the actual features on those things. So that's kind of the main things we're going to be talking about. So for most people getting into this for the first time, I would recommend you get started with ToneDen. And the reason is, when it comes to price, they have a free tier that you can use. You can put a pixel on it to track your actions. You can set up a custom domain to be in compliance with the whole iOS 14 world. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, check this video or playlist right here. And you can do that all in the free tier. And it's the easiest to set up. Setting up a custom domain on ToneDen, it's the easiest out of these 3 services that we're talking about. So for that reason, I think most people should start using it. Now, that being said, it is, out of these 3, I would say the least feature-packed of all of them. And it's free, so we can't really complain. But in particular, even on the paid plan, a lot of these features are not there either. So I want to kind of show you what features you're missing out on by using ToneDen, I guess specifically the free tier. So if you're using the free tier, you can't make pre-save links, which is one thing to consider. But you can't see, like this graph here looks really useful, right? But it's actually not very useful because it only is tracking traffic on the page. It's not tracking click-throughs on the page. Just like however many times people visited this page. And Hypeddit and FeatureFM actually allow you to see how many visits and click-throughs you're getting. And so that's a huge advantage, being able to track that data over time. Now, additionally, on ToneDen, you get to see what countries visited your page, what cities visited your page. But you have the same problem here where this isn't click-throughs. They call it clicks, but it's actually just people who visited this page. We don't get to see country by country what is the click-through rate or like conversion rate on our landing page. And so that is a big downside of ToneDen. You don't get that data. But on Hypeddit and FeatureFM you do. However, easiest to set up and free option. So most people start with this. Now, if you're comfortable paying just $9 a month and you want to get as many features as possible and you're comfortable dealing with some minor technical challenges, if you just not anything too difficult, but you're comfortable with some technical stuff, then Hypeddit is a fantastic option because it's only $9 a month. And I do have an affiliate link in the description if you want to check it out. And this is what I probably used for the longest period of time. Right now, I will say that I use FeatureFM, and you're going to see why when we get into FeatureFM. But FeatureFM is much more expensive than Hypeddit. And Hypeddit and FeatureFM have a very similar feature set now because Hypeddit continually is expanding its feature set, which is awesome considering how cheap of a service it is. Now, when it comes to the analytics, I was mentioning some complaints about ToneDen, where we can't track stats day by day, right? And now this isn't a good link to use because I haven't run ads in this year because I've mostly used FeatureFM this year. And so let me try to find something that has a little more. I guess I'll just use this one even though it only has 7 clicks on it. And look at the stats all time. So you can see here, there's not a perfect example because it doesn't have a ton of data, but you can see there's a graph for visits, link clicks, and then a graph for links clicked divided by visits or click-through rate of the page. So you can see day by day how many visits, link clicks, and what is your click-through rate of the page, which is very useful for diagnosing if things go wrong on your landing page, and also seeing how many conversions should you expect on a given day. You can see all those stats exactly. Now, in addition to that, you can see all of the data for channels, so TikTok, Direct, Google, or total, what is the visits, link clicks per visit, and for countries. So you can see the top 10 countries, what are the visits, link clicks per visits, and same for browsers and devices. So you don't get that in ToneDen. And Hypeddit added this feature, I think, I think it was this year. I made a video about it. If you want to check that out right there, if you want to see this more extensively to compare these platforms. But that's a huge advantage. Now, one of the downsides with Hypeddit is that you don't have multi-user login, or like if you have a band on Hypeddit, you can actually make different profiles where you can invite different users to have access to those profiles. With Hypeddit, you can't do that. If you wanted like your band member to use the Hypeddit account, you just have to give them the username and password, which is fine. But it's a lot better if you can just have a user system, which Hypeddit does not have. And additionally, Hypeddit's custom domain setup is significantly more challenging than ToneDen's. You can't just go immediately kind of do a few steps and hook up your custom domain. Like you see here, it is hd.androidspotify.com. On Hypeddit, you can only set up one domain. On ToneDen, you can set up essentially as many as you want. On Hypeddit, you have to use something called Cloudflare, and it's a little bit of a technical hurdle, nothing too crazy, but it's a hurdle nonetheless. It makes it harder than that. Now, another thing to consider is that ToneDen, if I go into edit link here and tracking settings, see tracking events. So ToneDen fires a page view when someone visits your page and a view content event when someone converts on your page. Hypeddit, and by the way, those are what are known as standard events. They're built right into Facebook ads. You don't have to create them or anything. They're just already in your Facebook ad account. For Hypeddit, they use custom events. Hypeddit Smart Link Visit and Hypeddit Smart Link Click. You have to create custom conversions using those conversion events to use them in ad campaigns. Just like a little extra step. I do have a video on that right here as well. If you want to see how you do that, it's nothing too crazy, but again, it's another hurdle to consider. That being said, with Hypeddit, you're not only getting smart links, you're getting the ability to do pre-save links, the ability to do download gates, link gates, loud links, etc. So they have extra features, and a really cool thing that they added is that they support a Google conversion tag and also a TikTok pixel. ToneDen technically supports those things, but not in a way that I've found to be useful. And big thing that I won't cover too much, but Hypeddit supports something known as the Conversion API, which technically makes Hypeddit the most accurate tracking compared to these three services. It doesn't matter that much. It's a very small percentage difference, but technically it is the most accurate because it has Conversion API. So now we can flip over to talking about FeatureFM. Why do I use FeatureFM? Well, for a while, I kind of thought FeatureFM was something I never used because of how expensive it is. $35 a month essentially is the minimum amount of money for a 1-year contract. Or not contract, but you have to pay for a year up front. So it's really expensive, but they gave me a year for free to try out one of their fancy, high-tier plans. And I fell in love with it. And honestly, I would pay for it if I really had to, because it's really good. And I run a lot of ads, so for me, it's worth it. And so there's a few specific things that I need to mention that are cons of FeatureFM first, and I'll talk about the reasons why I love it. The cons are that setting up your custom domain is ridiculously complicated for them. One, you have to buy a different domain name that is dedicated to FeatureFM. Whereas with Hypeddit and ToneDen, you can just use an existing domain and you're just making a subdomain. See how this is td.generastudios.com? And over here, it's hd.androidspotify.com. With this, it's just streamandrew.com. I can't use that domain anywhere else except FeatureFM. So I'm paying for that domain yearly just to use it with FeatureFM. So that's a problem. Now, also, you can't set up your domain yourself. You have to fill out a form and then basically have a back and forth with the FeatureFM team over the course of about a week just to get it set up. So it's easy. It's just as technically easy as doing it with Hypeddit. However, there's just their back and forth, and it takes kind of a while, so it's kind of a pain to get started. But once it's set up, it's a lifetime setup thing. Now, one of the really good things about FeatureFM is just like ToneDen, they support multiple users as long as you're on one of the higher tier plans, which is great for labels. But additionally, another really awesome label feature or management feature or whatever is that you can have, for the higher tier like label plans, you can have different artists segmented in here. And you can have different domain names and different pixels and different link in bios associated with each of those. So you can, every artist in here gets their own link in bio that they can customize. And so you can, if you're a label, I don't think it's an option. Like I don't think, if you're a label that makes good money, I think it's a no-brainer. FeatureFM is what you want to use. But, you know, if ToneDen would provide some of that because of their user account features. But for individual users who are not labels, one of my favorite things about it is just the analytics. And Hypeddit really did up the game here by adding a lot of these in here. But FeatureFM had this prior to Hypeddit, this day-by-day breakdown of visits and clicks. But they have it broken down by channels that you can manually configure. So a lot of this is just like what we saw in Hypeddit, right? We can see different services, what the breakdown is. We can see different countries, what the click-through rate are. We can look at all the different countries and stuff. But if you want to track something specifically, when you go to grab your link, you can make custom channels and all this stuff, but there's all these presets where if you're running a Facebook ad, copy this special link, and now it's going to track all of that click-through rate data separately. So if you're running a Facebook ad campaign and a TikTok ad campaign and a Google display ad campaign, for example, you can track the click-through rate off of each of those sources separately. Where on something like ToneDen, that would be 3 different links you would have to make and manage, which is not a big deal. But if you do Facebook ads a lot, you know, when I post on Facebook, I copy the organic channel Facebook link. When I put it on YouTube, I get the organic channel YouTube link. And so then I can go in and look at my stats for again and again. And I can measure the effectiveness of my Facebook ad campaign, but I can also see how many clicks did I get from YouTube organically, how many clicks did I get from Facebook organically, and whatever other sources I'm tracking. So that's incredibly useful. Now, something that needs to be brought up about FeatureFM is that it is the fastest across all 3 of these options in terms of loading speed. And I do have a dedicated video of FeatureFM if you want to learn even more about all these features, and an article I'll link down below that I wrote about FeatureFM and reviewing it. But it is by far the fastest loading speed. I did a test. I did some page speed tests with each of the platforms and found that FeatureFM just dominated all 3 of them. So that is something to consider. Like when people are loading these links on their cell phones, potentially in areas with bad service, the faster your page loads, typically the better your click-through rate may be. So that's a really important factor. It's not a deal breaker because all 3 of these options can work phenomenally, but FeatureFM technically has a big edge, the fact that the pages load so fast. So we'll learn more about that here and here. So, you know, each of these platforms work. They're all great. So don't feel like you have to pay the big money for FeatureFM. Don't feel like you can't do Hypeddit because it's slightly technical. It's not too much harder to set up Hypeddit than it is to set up ToneDen. ToneDen is the easiest, and it has a free tier, so it's great for starting off. Hypeddit is a little bit easier than FeatureFM to get into, but it's only $9 a month. And if you just need every feature that you could possibly want, or you're a label, or you're part of a team, FeatureFM is a no-brainer. It's just expensive. But all 3 are great. All 3 get the job done, and that's kind of the path that you might want to consider. So if you want to learn more about how to actually run these Facebook ad campaigns, you can check out this video right here. And if you prefer a more organized course, step-by-step breakdown with a bunch of videos and stuff, and access to a community where you can ask questions, I have a course right here called Spotify Growth Machine that you can check out. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video. Bye.